coolest thing you can do in 4 minutes or less?
God, in 4 minutes or less? That's a great question.
It's totally on-the-spot question.
Let me do this. I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. What's yours? And that'll give me a little bit more.
I could probably set up a 4-camera interview setup.
Good call.
In 4 minutes or less.
Good.
I will be a sweaty disaster when it's finally all up, but I could probably do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you gave me a little bit of time to think. I can make eggs and steamed broccoli in about 2.5 minutes.
Am I assuming that was your breakfast while you were filming this movie?
Yes.
Over and over and over again?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
We'll have to set this up. You'll make breakfast. I'll set up an interview. We'll talk about it afterwards.
Let's do it.
4 minutes or less.
Please.
Love it.
I'm in.
You think a 5-minute mile is fast? How fast to get a scholarship to UC Berkeley?
You don't have a chance.
I'll do whatever you say.
Get in the water.
What?
Get in the water.
Kelly, thank you so much for coming by and spending some time with us.
Of course, yeah. Thanks for having me here.
My first question is, I have to ask, with 4 Minute Mile, if you had to guess, how many calories did you burn throughout the entire process of that film?
I was trying to calculate every day. I'll tell you what, I think between when I got the role and when I left, it must have been between 20 and 30 pounds. And I wasn't even that big to begin with, but God, yeah, the most running. I don't ever want to do that much running ever again.
What did you get down to? What was your actual time?
You know what? Because it wasn't 4 minutes. I'm gonna break that myth because that's pretty hard to do.
Of course not. It was 3:57. What are you talking about?
Yes, of course. I probably got mid to late fives, which is decent, for a guy who never really ran track before.
We were talking earlier about the movie and the fact that we kind of guessed that you had done track before because you have the posture down so exactly. As you're doing the running, you're so focused and you're so tall when you do it. We kind of thought, well, see, he's not an actor pretending. He must have done this for years. But you were pretending. Yes, and that's good. That was my goal, to make sure that if anybody who ran tracks saw the movie, they'd buy into it, It's funny, at the audition, they're like, have you ran track before? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I ran track in high school, But that's all due to the great coaches that I had. Immediately when I got the part, they basically sent me out there to work with this great coach, Lauda, who was like an Olympic runner, and she just hammered me for 2 weeks. And after every take 2, there was always somebody there. There was another coach named Shelby who he'd say, okay, you're standing a little too tall, you're looking a little bit wobbly, so I give all the credit to them. The scenes in the pool with the tire, that looked really kind of, I would imagine that being kind of a nerve-wracking experience because you have to do it yourself, and air is good to have, and you had none for long stretches of time. Yeah. Were those daunting days when you were getting ready to do that? Well, it was funny because I was asking the director, I go, do they actually do this for track running? He's like, no, he's French-Canadian. No, it's going to look really good in the film. We want some water, and, so I'm like, okay. But I grew up around the beach and in water, so I was excited. I was like, bring it on. And it was definitely tough to do because he would be like, all right, let's do it again. I'm just like, give me a second, just let me breathe for a second, and pop my ears, and let's do this. So, but I love it, man. That's the one time when the actor really needs to be able to say, I understand the lights are ready, I understand the sound is ready, but again, oxygen, good thing to have. Yeah, exactly. And Richard, who played my coach, he would say, Jay Charles, who's the director, he'd say, just give him a second, the one who's pounding me in the film is like, hey, give him a break, he needs to stay conscious,
Why am I doing all the work?
Well, wax on, wax off.
Talk about being kind of thrown into the deep waters. Your supporting cast here is just, an incredible group of actors. What was it like for you going in as the lead of a film where you're being supported by Kim Basinger and Richard Jenkins and these amazing people? Terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying. Because I was such a fan of Richard and Kim as well. I haven't seen too much of her work, but I was such a fan of Richard, and I thought it's gonna be basically me and him the majority of the movie. And for the 2 weeks leading up, I was like, oh, I can't do this, you know? Like, you have those nerves of, but once you do that first scene, you know, once I met him, and right when I met him, I realized what the relationship was gonna be in the film, because he became a mentor for me as an actor in real life, so it was very parallel. And once you do that first scene, it just breaks the ice, and then you're good, you know. But 2 weeks leading up, I was tortured, you know. Like, I'm not gonna be able to hang, you know, but I think it was okay.
You got something. You got something in here. It's so deep in there. And you gotta beat it. You gotta face that fear. You got to. Because if you don't, you're gonna be me. And buddy, you don't want that.
When I read the script, I realized that although it's a movie that has running in it, I didn't see it as a sports film. I saw the running as a metaphor for what this guy was going through, and that's basically pushing through your fears and pushing through the pain to live in to your utmost potential. So for me, I realized that as long as I had the emotional arc going on underneath, that the running would and the overcoming would shine through as a more personal, emotional, mental breakthrough. And I think that that's what Richard's character was trying to drive into me. It could have been golf, it could have been anything, you know, but it just happened to be running. And hopefully that's what shines through, is the fact that this kid having obstacles and personal demons, that he pushes through all that pain, and by the end of the film you feel like he's going to be able to move on from everything that has happened that he's been keeping in throughout his life.
Why are you doing this?
Because he's fast. If you do face that fear, then it's just the beginning.